So here we are in Best Buy looking at some of the newest TVs that we have right now. At the bottom here, this is the QN900C. Has a decent amount of blooming on it, though I kind of know that, or the QN90C. I know that from my time having reviewed it this year. And then of course at the top we have the QN800C. I have noticed again more of the same theme in terms of blooming. So if you were looking for a TV, I probably wouldn't go for these just simply because they don't look the best. Then over here we have their 8K QLED. Again, more of the same. This is the QN900C. Now, it's not really as sharp as I would like it to be, especially for the price point. I think you can find a much sharper TV. This is just not really doing a whole lot right for me. So I'm just going to go ahead and pass on that one. And again, it's a general haziness to it too. Now, the one at the bottom here is the Q80C. This is kind of what they use to rope a lot of people in. The first thing I notice is that it's really pale and extremely hazy. It looks like something I would see out of maybe a $400 or $500 TV, so not exactly something that I would say is high-end or anything. This is probably what you get when you want a big TV with the Samsung logo on it, but you don't want to pay their top price. And if you also notice, it's a semi-matte finish screen, so it's not exactly a looker in a room with reflections. It's kind of a mirror, but like in the worst way possible, not because it has a glossy screen, but because of the screen that they chose. So that's really irritating. But that's at the top is the QN85C. And then over here we have the S95C, which I reviewed earlier on this year. And of course, I absolutely love this display. Really gorgeous, very vibrant colors. Bit overpriced for what it is right now, though. I think I would still wait for sales like the one we just had on the Samsung S95B. I think that would probably be a little bit better. At the bottom, we have the S90C, which basically is a neutered version of the S95B. It's just not anywhere near as colorful as it should be, considering it has QD OLED. And it is colorful and vibrant, but you're just better off, honestly. Like, this thing is going for way too much money again for something that just does not deliver the same impact and the same wow factor. And that's just as honest. I mean, like, reds particularly are the thing that kind of sees a major reduction from even something like the S95C. So that's what I would say about Samsung's line. In terms of what LG has to offer this year, this is the LG C3, and I've already reviewed this year. It's got a lot of reflections, but the colors are pretty good, very vibrant, very detailed, and honestly, you really want for nothing and need for nothing. It's pretty good all around, and I think it's one of the stronger options this year, especially when it comes to motion. They did a better job than they did last year with the C2, so that's definitely a win for you in that regard. Now we're going to go ahead and walk over to their top tier model, which is the G3 this year, which absolutely incredible in terms of highlight placement. Like, the water, everything looks really bright. I think that's one of the things that like super blew my mind. It's just the way that they went about the highlights, really. I think in total it doesn't overdo it, and I think that's something you'll really appreciate about this display. Like, it has the luminosity where it should be, even on like little small text like where it says Severance. That like is really nice. It doesn't appear like overly dim or really terrible. It's just nice. And I think this display gives like that feeling, or more of a feeling of completeness, if you will. And I think that's gonna really please a lot more people. So yeah, I like the G3. I think it's a good TV. But now, if we're talking about the G3, again, we're looking at prices like that. I think that's still a little too high even for a 55-inch, and I think you're probably better off going with one of the other options like the S95B. I don't know, man. I just think the G2 is still too close to this to justify paying this much money. Is it bright? Yeah, sure, it's bright. Highlights are great. But the G2 is also a fantastic TV, and you can still get it for the same price, and the stand works all the same. So you don't really have to do anything special or different in that respect. So I don't know, man. Colors, again, looking good. You probably can see some of that coming through here, but it is still a little too pricey. I would wait for a sale day. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed. I mean, looking at this Guardians of the Galaxy demo, a little janky with the motion there, not really the best. Now it's starting to look a little bit more in the way of smeary. And then at the bottom here, just to give you an idea of what the smaller 55-inch looks like. Again, very detailed, very sharp. Brightness is really nice. I love the brightness. So I think anybody would be happy with the G3, frankly. But again, maybe we'll do a more in-depth review later on this year. Who knows? Now, sadly, at present, if you want a Sony, all you really have are last year's options and the years before that. So at the top, the A80K. Down here, you have the A90J. So again, still older options that we already know everything about. The X95K, we already know about this at the top here. Again, with bright content, it does decently, but there is still a blooming issue. You will notice that from time to time, so that is something that you're going to have to factor in. But again, bright demos, it looks good, but it still has like kind of like a fuzziness to it too, like almost like a pixelation, like it's not as sharp as it should be, and definitely not as sharp as some other Sonys. Also, motion, not really as good as I've seen in prior years from Sony, so it's definitely something they need to work on. Then over here, this super washed out TV is the X85K, which actually surprises me. Last time I reviewed it, I didn't remember it looking this bad, but when you compare it to like something like the X95, it just looks like a TV from like a decade ago. It's kind of crazy. And then the X90K at the bottom, it looks a little bit better, but I mean literally just a little bit better than what we have at the top here, which is actually kind of surprising. So yeah, very, very strange stuff happening. Now, of course, we know about the the A80K here. This is obviously their WOLED. So hopefully we see more QD OLEDs from Sony, because they could definitely use it. And again, another X95K, because why not, right? And over here we have the X90K, which frankly, I'm not a fan of this model. It's very hazy and it doesn't look very good, like at all. You can probably see it even with this store demo. It's a bit of a mirror too, even though it has a semi-matte finish screen. So yeah, it's not really the best option, and it's hard because a lot of people like Sony, but their options right now aren't really the best. The A80K or maybe one of their older WOLEDs are probably like your best bet. This is the X80K. As you see, there are a lot of problems with black levels, but honestly speaking, I don't know, man. I feel like this is a good model if you want the Sony name and you want some good highlight placement, because this does have good highlight placements. Just don't expect anything good for a dark room environment, is what I would say there. Then of course we all know about Sony's A90K, which is again their 42-inch variation of the A90J. Smaller TV, giving you pretty much the same exact features. Frankly, this is just not for me, but there are people who do need or want a smaller display. I think this would be ace for somebody with an ultra small place, like maybe somewhere in a different country like Japan or somewhere like that, and you want a high quality set but you don't have room for something bigger. Then this is where this would come in like totally ace, and it'd be a badass display. It's kind of the only thing like it too. I think Samsung and other manufacturers do need to take note from Sony in this area, because it's one of the areas where I think we need to stop glorifying and idealizing having the largest TV all the time, and we need to start getting back to basics, because rent is expensive, mortgages are expensive, people are struggling, and that means sometimes you have to take a step down in what you can afford as far as square footage. So to have a smaller display that fits those needs, I think beautiful move by Sony. And then of course another X90K from Sony, kind of more of the same hazy picture quality that I'm not too much of a fan of. Now we've got the QLED Fire TVs called the Omni QLED series. Now, I mean, it doesn't really do a whole lot to catch the eye more than what I've seen from pretty much any of the other brands, but at least it'll give you some idea of what the picture quality of a QLED is like. But I feel like you can do a lot better than going with this particular display, just because it still looks a little rough around the edges. Is it a pretty screen? Yeah, it looks pretty, but that's with the colors right now. I'm pretty sure if we go into a dark room, we'll have some issues that we've got to work on. But all in all, I mean, this is pretty much what the TV market is. I mean, they've got their little Roku end cap here. These TVs look awful, like literally just a haze fest. So I wouldn't recommend that, especially for 500, 600 bucks. You can just get a Hisense series television and walk away with local dimming and all that good stuff. So that's what I would say there. But yeah, these are the best TVs in Best Buy right now. I mean, I would give Vizio some credit, but I mean, if we were to do that, I mean, Vizio is just kind of like out of the game. I don't know what they've been doing or what their angle is, but basically it's kind of like wraps for Vizio. They don't really have anything that catches the eye or does anything of true value. So that's unfortunate. But let me know what you think in the comments down below.